We did it, everyone! After almost 5 years, Cuphead is officially over. This delicious last course has been getting teased shortly after the original game launched, and now it's finally here to end it. Hopefully Studio MDHR can put this behind them so they can perhaps revitalize another old school subgenre that's been shunned from pronounced publishers. My recommendation would have been a beat 'em up, but damn did that subgenre come back like someone talked bad about their mama these past 5 years. Anyway, I decided to talk about this delicious last course a bit just to give my thoughts on the last piece of Cuphead. This means for Studio MDHR to perhaps thank everyone for supporting them for as long as they have. And not just support through buying the game, but also the chapter books, the toys, the statues, streaming the cartoon, the Tesla, and consuming a whole bunch of other stuff I can't even pretend to care about, because all it did was remind me, hey you guys, you still haven't said anything about the DLC. What's your deal here? No, stop showing me the tabletop game, stop showing me all this crap. I just want that last bit of content you promised. And honestly, this entire franchising of Cuphead really rubbed me the wrong way as time went on. Sure, I got some figures, those are fine.
Use a real high-class belt. Now go!
I even got this humongous art book that I opened up and read a bit until I realized, wow, I can't even fathom finishing this. For a lot of games I love, their art books are usually ones I like to read from cover to spine. Is that a phrase? Or at least look at the pages and lament that I'm such a lazy trog that won't even attempt to learn basic Japanese. But Cuphead? I love Cuphead. Why can't I even begin to give a shit about literally anything in this book? That's because it's so ingrained into my system that, while I love Cuphead's visual aspect, the only thing that really keeps me is the core gameplay. Fighting the bosses in run-and-gun fashion. I don't want to downplay the visuals or the presentation. They're greater than great. The characters are gorgeous. I love that they use traditional animation techniques in order for it to look authentic. I love that they were smart enough to animate everything in 24 frames while having the game run at 60 so as not to make the style detrimental to the playability. It's all fantastic. And I just don't care. I simply wanted a game that felt good to run and gun. Thankfully, Cuphead did, for the most part. I wouldn't say it's flawless in regards to design, and I've spoken previously how worthless I find the regular stages to be. It's actually kinda neat how the expected stages are considerably rare while the boss fights are plentiful. A real flip of the script regarding side-scrolling action games these days, you know? I'd be much more interested in a design document on how the gameplay was built, what influenced their design choices and the patterns of boss attacks, etc. That would be something I'd make copies of just to sneak into hotel drawers next to their Bibles. And that's because I think the less spoken Jared Moldenhauer has a great idea of what makes a genuinely good run-and-gun boss. What makes them challenging to take on, but satisfying to take down, all while making the patterns extra tough, taking advantage of the fact that the game is not bogged down by the posterity of limited lives or linear stages preceding these huge confrontations. Where the hell is he in this art book, huh? That's probably why I never watched the Cuphead show, and likely never will. I think the characters' personalities go as far as their mannerisms in the game, something I don't see the Netflix show really replicating since it wouldn't be enough to carry a 20-something minute program. And even if I saw Grim Matchstick spawn a couple extra heads or other homages to the game, I can't say it entertained me beyond a finger-pointing moment. Simply put, the previews failed to gain my interest. My condolences for the animation team though, Netflix really seemed to screw them over. So that's the gist of it. I'm a Contra boy, always have been, so Contrahead is all I care about. And I still stand by the notion that this game is probably one of the easiest run-and-guns ever made. And by easiest, I mean the most manageable to complete without using anything along the lines of cheats or save states. They give you 2 chances before you die, for God's sake. The enemy patterns are mostly easy to learn, and most of their attacks are telegraphed with enough startup animation frames to make their own failed pilots. Just like good run-and-gun games, Cuphead merely asks you to understand your position and where you need to move once projectiles or whole-ass enemies start coming at you, and understand that quickly. Nearly every time I take damage these days is usually due to me choking with my execution. Nobody is going to beat all of these brutes their first time around. You need to learn how they fight, how they fire their arsenal. The only part of Cuphead I found genuinely difficult is the expert mode, which is treated as an extra feature where the programmers likely had some fun making obtuse patterns that they knew no sane person would enjoy. Piss off with your planting bullshit. So yeah, I feel like I did not emphasize in my original video enough that the core gameplay is the real reason I stuck around with Cuphead, a game I beat to 100% completion on 3 different platforms. The art style and fighting game homages are cool, but the core gameplay and tight controls are what kept me. The boss fights rocked, and this DLC promised, at the very least, more of that. So finally diving into this new content, let's see what nearly 5 years and $8 amounted to. To be completely honest, the fact that it took so long for us to get this new content made me half jokingly theorize that they'd surprise us and reveal this as Cuphead 2, sort of like how Final Fantasy 15 was unveiled. But no, it's simply a 4th Inkwell Isle, so it's essentially an extra third's worth of game content. They've also added new weapons and abilities you can use for the entire game. That includes Chalice, the new playable character. One thing that made me sing regarding this new isle: no run and gun stages. It goes to show me that they're dedicated to the aspects that worked for their vision. For those that might be unaware, the run and gun stages from the original game were due to public demand after it was originally announced the game would only have boss fights. In the end, we got very weak stages that showed this was not their goal for the game they were making, and were quickly forgotten in the gaming sphere. It pleases me that they didn't waste any time or resources on that aspect. In regards to how difficult these new confrontations are, I'll go with a very unscientific study. I didn't play Cuphead for a good while after wringing its fiber down to the bone for a 3rd time on Nintendo Switch, but decided to run through it again on stream and see if I can merely blast through it in a single session on a complete file. I didn't restrict myself much. As long as I could defeat them, my rank was irrelevant for this experiment. I managed to defeat every single boss in about 2 hours.
Stupid asshole. Watch me spread my super at it. Fucking goddamn, I would. Sorry, you're making me peeved.
He looks like what I imagine the inside of a turtle looks like.
I'm no speedrunner, but I remember a lot of the patterns and knew how to approach all of them, so it was still pretty easy, all things considered.
Whoa, the way she wiggles her hips.
Yeah, that hip dance is very. That little hip swinging is really iconic.
She kind of bad though. God, man, they really, whoever animated those lines around her tummy. Hey man, what's up? Man, she got the messy top bun and everything. God damn. God damn. Why is she so fucking sexy?
Oh, she's a skeleton now. Still sexy?
That's even hotter. Now she's just a goth pig. My favorite way to consume chocolate as a child was sucking the Hershey's chocolate sauce right out the bottle.
You did that too?
It was like, you know, you started with doing whipped cream right out the can, and then like that was your gateway drug to chocolate sauce right out the bottle.
My mom had corn syrup. I would just eat it.
Just drink it out of the tube.
Oh, that's a new one.
I guess I haven't seen anyone have corn syrup in their kitchens.
I've never seen it
it's like a big, mine was like this big yellow bottle.
Well, everyone hides it when they see you coming.
I dissected the Inkwell hell out of this game back in 2017, so this wasn't really surprising to me. I dove into the new Isle live on stream and basically bum rushed the new bosses, and it took me about 3 hours to make it to the end. This doesn't include the King's Gauntlet or the secret boss, which I did not clear until afterward off stream. I think this is a good immediate indicator of just how much more difficult these new confrontations are.
Oh! We got a
Boom.
achievement!
No damage.
Nice.
Oh my god. Yes.
You did it! You're doing so well!
Is that perfect rank?
You got an A plus.
Appropriately so, the new boss's difficulty level begins where the original game ended, and then there was the secret boss, which took me a whole other chunk of time to complete that single confrontation. If there's one thing that's noticeably different in how these new bosses were designed, they seem much more reliant on RNG mechanics and even some gimmicks. While the original bosses certainly bore random patterns on occasion, some of these bosses take it to a whole other level. I think the best examples are the spawning minions in Moonshine Mob's level, Esther Winchester as a whole, and pretty much everything Salty does. I also don't care for some of these gimmicks, such as the final phase of the Howling Aces. Granted, they had the courtesy of giving you alternate control options. B made a lot more sense to my 8 brain. Despite what more popular and naive YouTubers have claimed, Contra games did not have a lot of RNG mechanics in their enemies because that would make it too difficult for players to understand and conquer those games. Just about everything had a pattern to it. That's probably my biggest criticism with this new DLC. As challenging as the Contra games were, everything felt much more consistent, most especially the bosses. RNG like, is the enemy going to come from the right or the left next, or will it be a short arm stretch or a long one? The fireballs or the laser? Those are perfectly fine, but Cuphead's DLC bosses sort of stack multiple RNG scenarios on you at the same time, sometimes even making it impossible to get that perfect rank even if you're destroying their invisible health bars, something the original game is even guilty of here and there. It feels like they've plateaued in how to make the bosses truly challenging without relying on cheap tricks like this. At this point, I can beat them all easily, but getting a perfect rank has been considerably frustrating. So with that in mind, and seeing as how this DLC added nearly nothing groundbreaking to the formula, I'm kind of glad they didn't just make a straight up sequel. It might have felt considerably lackluster if this is as far as their run and gun design chops can go. I don't have too much to say in regards to the bosses themselves either. My favorite is probably the Moonshine Mob, speaking purely on aesthetics. I can't get over the Spider Mobster's jargon when he grabs his phone. And the fake knockout sign was also a cute trick.
I do not know what this does. Oh shit! Oh my god!
You got him!
Okay, but I don't think it's over. Oh my god! Oh fuck!
Oh no, they tricked you!
And for gameplay design, it's probably gotta go to Esther Winchester. It's pretty damn chaotic, but I had a lot of fun figuring out her patterns, and the 4th phase turns into some kind of R-type boss, which I loved. I also can't ignore Salty as the final boss. A fun twist if they actually built up to it, but because I literally never interacted with him at all after the introduction, his betrayal just made me go, oh, I guess he's the boss, and didn't really have any impact. He probably has even more animation than the devil, and I also like how his first 2 phases are incredibly overwhelming, while his last 2 are considerably understated. Kinda like a sign of his power weakening as you continue to chip away at his gargantuan stature. And I will say, seeing how he used all the ingredients you collected for him was a delight. Salty definitely stands as an absolute trial of all the skills you've built up to this point, beyond the original game, beyond the devil himself. There's a point where his constant projectiles coming from all directions gets annoying, but it's so gratifying to clear the endurance. The secret angel / devil boss is a nice extra challenge too. It completely changes how you're supposed to approach a boss, seeing as how you're always facing the devil and all attacks flip from harmless to harmful every time you turn around. Can I say they were inspired by Ikaruga? The best part of this game, funny enough, I think is the King's Gauntlet. All based on chess pieces, these middling bosses serve more as trials of mastering your parry move, as well as sharpening your reaction skills. No shooting required, as your parry is the only way you can fight back. The knight stands out the most, despite being the simplest design. Reacting to his attacks is just really fun, and I love that little taunt he does. Overall, this delicious last course was certainly one last good go around with Cuphead. It's kind of weird thinking of this timeline and looking at the ridiculous amount of merchandising a single game received, but I'm happy that the developers haven't forgotten how this all started, as a video game. And I hope Studio MDHR keeps that fire blazing, perhaps with an entirely new IP. Maybe that's why this took so long. For all we know, they'll be ready to announce and preview their next game shortly. I can't even begin to guess what they want to do next, but I doubt it'll be run and gun again. I'm not ignorant to why Cuphead sold so well. It was the art style, and pretty much the art style alone. Implementing this level of talent into a new type of game should also guarantee financial success as well. So, was this DLC everything I had hoped for? I don't know. I'm not even sure what my expectations were. My only concern was that they were going to waste everyone's time, including their own, with subpar run-and-gun stages, but thankfully that was not the case. Otherwise, I don't know. This was a fine return to old grounds with some new confrontations, but nothing really evolved. And I understand it was an $8 DLC pack, but it's just this weird feeling where part of me was expecting something groundbreaking from MDHR, but that wasn't what I got. While the DLC sold well, it isn't surprising to me how quickly it came and went. It's these kinds of instances that tell me a straight up sequel to Cuphead probably wouldn't be the best idea. I'm sure the people of Studio MDHR have taken note, and whatever they choose to work on will likely be of an entirely different genre or subgenre. You know what all of this is like actually? You ever had a good friend in high school or something and you both had a goofy chemistry and always made each other laugh as you were teenagers, but you both part ways, which is normal since you're changing your environment and getting caught up in things like graduation, college, whatever. Some years pass, let's say 5. Maybe you continued your education, maybe you traveled across the country or the world, maybe you managed to find a job that requires a lot of management and responsibility and it's building up towards some sort of future for you, perhaps an opportunity to start your own family, I don't know. The point is, you've experienced a lot these past 5 years. You're not that goofy kid in high school anymore. You've got a nice routine going on between your work and your social life. You see your old friend hit you up on whatever social media platform you both share. Hey, it's been a while. How are things? You two catch up for a few messages back and forth, and you offer a time to hang out somewhere. And you're excited about that. You want to catch up with that old friend, tell them everything you've experienced, and you want to hear from them as well. You want to know how they've changed. It's been so long. And you meet up somewhere, you talk for a while, and that's when you realize, oh, they're exactly the same. You realize you've changed so much over this amount of time, you didn't take into account that they didn't go anywhere. They didn't really experience anything that would change them. Or perhaps you're more cynical and consider them to be immature at this point. But in the end, they still make you laugh, you still have fun with your old friend, and that's what's most important, I think. Why should they change if they're happy with what they're doing and if they still make sure you're having a good time? Perhaps you didn't change as much as you think. Closing the Cuphead chapter, I plan to discuss other run-and-gun titles down the line, as I think I owe it to any indie dev that wants to give this subgenre a try. I also want to express a mechanic I'd like to see in future games of said subgenre, as I think it'll help them make their game feel even better to play. Because Lord knows we can't have faith in Konami doing anything notable with the Contra series ever again. But I'll discuss that in a video that will be released shortly after this. Thanks for watching.
Nice and,
Anyway, Big
nice
Drippy
and
says
heavy.
it's hard to articulate what he doesn't like about Ozark, but he says it feels like it works off of like a preconceived notion that you've seen Breaking Bad and Sopranos, which I've only ever seen Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad takes a lot of notes from Sopranos. And Sopranos takes a lot of notes from Twin Peaks, so, you know, it's all good.
And I'm sure it doesn't.
Dude, fuck off. Stupid asshole. Trying to tell me about my fucking New Jersey show? Eat my ass. Eat my ass. I'm gonna put all the shit back in it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna tell you about my Cleveland show.
Yeah, the Cleveland show. Is that in Cleveland? Is the Cleveland show in Cleveland?
No.
You don't know that.
I think I do.